Jerez has been the scene of some of the most dramatic last lap battles in history, and we're braced for another unforgettable spectacle in the Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain. Who will reign in Spain? It's time to race in MotoGP. So the 4.4 kilometre Circuito de Jerez Ángel Nieto, first built back in 1986, and since 1987 it's been staging the Spanish Grand Prix. The fans are back for the first time since 2019. There's a carnival atmosphere ahead of the 25-lap Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain coming up very, very shortly. Fabio Quartararo holds the best race lap. Not many overtaking hot spots around this corner, but here's one of the most famous ones, the Jorge Lorenzo corner. Fabio Quartararo, before he had his arm pump problems, into that last turn last year. Coming up in MotoGP, it's pole for Pecco as Bagnaia looks to kickstart his title challenge. Fast Fabio has great race pace as Quartararo looks to star in Spain. Can Aprilia's Aleix Espargaro be the home crowd hero starting from third? And Alex Rins aims to be the comeback king again, charging through from 14th. What a sight that is. Fans back at the Circuito de Jerez Ángel Nieto, packed to the rafters as we start the build-up to round 6 of the 2022 MotoGP World Championship. The hottest conditions we've had of the weekend so far. Ambient temperature up to 28 degrees. There's not much of a breeze blowing around this circuit. There's a sparrow here at the Circuito de Jerez Ángel Nieto, who will be flying to glory at the Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain. We had a record-breaking qualifying session here in Jerez yesterday with the Cati Lenovo team rider Pecco Bagnaia, an astonishing all-time lap record of 1:36.170. If you wanted a vantage point on those famous Jerez hillsides, well, you need to be here at about 5 o'clock this morning. When we arrived at 7 a.m, they were already jam-packed, not a spare blade of grass on those famous hillsides overlooking the stadium section of this 4.4 kilometre Jerez circuit, nestled in the heart of the tourism heartland Andalusia. Bringing you coverage then of this round 6 of what's already been an intriguing MotoGP World Championship battle, with Fabio Quartararo and Alex Rins sharing the World Championship lead. I'm Matt Burt. Sitting alongside me in the commentary box is Lewis Sotheby. Down in pit lane, as always, is Simon Crayfart. Pecco Bagnaia then starting from pole position on the front row with world champion Fabio Quartararo and Aleix Espargaro. And what about this man, Lewis? Home hopes resting on the shoulders so many occasions in the past of Marc Marquez, but he's pretty pessimistic about his chances of adding another podium to his great record here in the Spanish Grand Prix.
He's keeping his expectations under control, isn't he? Starts from 5th on the grid here this afternoon, and he thinks that's the limit of what he can achieve here today. He's expecting to finish somewhere between 5th and 10th. Far be it from us to write off Marc Marquez. We're certainly not going to write him off from achieving something special. He's achieved plenty of special things for his fans who pack the grandstands and the grass banks here at the Circuito de Jerez. That Honda still not working as Marc Marquez would like it. He's still not fully comfortable on that bike, still lacking the confidence that he needs to push to the limit. He still doesn't understand where the limit is on that 2022 bike. So don't expect him necessarily to be involved in the battle between Fabio Quartararo and this man, the pole man, Pecco Bagnaia.
Yeah, Pecco Bagnaia is back. He said yesterday it was the lap of his life absolute perfection on the factory Ducati GP22 as he found a 1:36.170, not just obliterating Maverick Vinales' 2-year-old all-time lap record, but Bagnaia was nearly half a second clear of Fabio Quartararo, who loves this Circuito de Jerez Angel Nieto. Quartararo in second place. If you deeply analyse the race pace of the top 2 men on the grid, Bagnaia and Quartararo, who we see now coming to the back of the Monster Energy Yamaha garage, the joint world championship leader, those two look like they have the potential to make this a 2-horse battle. We've seen some titanic tussles down the years, haven't we, here in Jerez? Are we about to get another super showdown in the Spanish sunshine? Quartararo then trying to make it back-to-back wins in the space of 7 days to seize the outright lead in the MotoGP World Championship. An outright lead, of course, if he does do so, to take into his home Grand Prix in Le Mans in 2 weeks' time.
So little to choose between Fabio Quartararo and Pecco Bagnaia. Over the long run pace in FP4, it looked as if Quartararo, maybe when the tyre started to wear her down, had maybe a 10th or 2 in his pocket. That could be all it comes down to in the Grand Prix this afternoon, away from Enea Bastianini, who has his work cut out so far this afternoon. He starts 11th on the grid, not the qualifying session that Bastianini was hoping for, but we've seen so often in his short MotoGP career the progress he can make from relatively lowly grid positions. Do not write off the former World Championship leader.
Aleix Espargaro and the factory Aprilia team have had a sensational start to 2022. A pat on the back there, a pat of encouragement from Max Biaggi, a 4x 250cc world champion and ambassador, of course, currently for Aprilia, as Aleix Espargaro twice so far in 2022. He started on the front row in Argentina and last time out in Portimao, and he's seen the job through on race day. Massimo Rivola, Aprilia CEO, comes over just to offer some more words of encouragement for Aleix Espargaro. He feels like maybe not quite the outright race pace of Bagnaia and Quartararo directly had him on the grid, but based on his pace on worn tyres, particularly the medium rear tyre in FP4 yesterday, he feels like he may well be able to run with the top 2. This was a great moment here in Jerez 24 hours ago. Officially now a MotoGP legend, we always knew he was. 5 times world champion Jorge Lorenzo inducted in a special ceremony yesterday, which I had the privilege of hosting here in the media centre. So many special memories for Jorge Lorenzo as he talks to Alberto Puig and Takeo Yokoyama from HRC. Turned 13, of course, named after Jorge Lorenzo here, and it was right here 20 years ago, back in 2002. He made a delayed Grand Prix debut on his 15th birthday. He was too young to ride in Friday practice. Great to see, though, Jorge Lorenzo, a proper Spanish motorsport legend, soaking up the atmosphere here pre-race in Spain.
Will it be the corner named in his honour where we see the victory decided later on today? We won't give you spoilers of what happened in the Grand Prix earlier on today, but we've certainly seen some action at that part of the racetrack. Joan Mir then, he's certainly going to have to get his elbows out early on. He starts from the 3rd row of the grid in 9th position. A rare crash for him in qualifying yesterday. He almost had another early on in the day in free practice 4. An incredible save on his left foot into that Jorge Lorenzo corner. Mir on the back of the 3rd row. He possibly has the pace to match the likes of Quartararo and Bagnaia up ahead, but an awful lot of overtaking to be done before he can dream of battling with his fellow rivals up the front.
Good salvage job yesterday afternoon by Johann Zarco, struggling for race pace throughout the weekend, not able to turn or stop in many high-speed corners around this Jerez circuit on the Pramac Ducati, but he stole the place on the 2nd row, 6, from this man Taka Nakagami. Zarco, we just saw there, him sat next to his mentor and rider coach, the legendary off-roader and road racer Jean-Michel Bale. Now then, Taka Nakagami loves this Circuito de Jerez Angel Nieto. A couple of 4th places, a couple of narrow misses in terms of the podium. Is today the big day for the 30-year-old Japanese rider? Well, he got a welcome pre-race boost this morning. He topped the 20-minute warm-up session, but this is MotoGP start 72 for Nakagami, still without that first podium. Can he do it today from 7th place on the grid?
Will we see more opening lap pyrotechnics from Alex Rins? He, of course, came from 23rd on the grid a week ago through to 4th position as he visualises perhaps that first lap that is ahead of him. by the measure of last weekend, he's got a relatively easy task up ahead of him today. Alex Rins starts from 14th on the grid, but as he shares the World Championship lead with Fabio Quartararo, both of them level on 69 points. The closest top four at this stage of a MotoGP season since the current point system was adopted. If Rins is going to leave here on terms with Fabio Quartararo, or dare I say ahead of him, he's got an Herculean task up ahead of him from 14th on the grid.
And Jack Miller, nicknamed the Thriller, well, he had a thriller here in the Spanish Grand Prix 12 months ago. He was lying in a strong second place when Fabio Quartararo had his body let him down on his motorcycle. Quartararo was streaking away to a victory here from pole position 12 months ago in Jerez when he had the crippling arm pump problem. He dropped from a comfortable race lead all the way back down to 13th place. It wasn't an arm pump issue which derailed his World Championship challenge. It certainly blew him off course though here in Jerez 12 months ago. Jack Miller, another strong qualifying for the factory Ducati man. All kinds of rumours about whether he'll be a Ducati rider in 2023. That's for another time. Miller goes from the head of the second row in 4th place, clear of Marc Marquez and Johann Zarco.
Briefly got a look at Miguel Oliveira. He's another rider out of position, you'd argue, on the grid. He starts 21st for this Grand Prix this afternoon. Problems with his rear ride height device yesterday in qualifying. He only got one run in qualifying one, and even that was not at full tilt. He ends up back on the 7th row of the grid. KTM have had a pretty difficult qualifying session. The first of them is Brad Binder in 15th position. He's certainly going to be looking to move forward from there. Remy Gardner in between the two factory KTM teammates in 18th position. It's a measure of where KTM are at. That Remy Gardner felt he pulled a magic lap out of the bag yesterday, as good as he could have managed. It was only good enough for P18.
Yeah, Joan Mir felt like there was probably maybe another 10th or two in terms of his best lap time in qualifying yesterday, but he paid dearly for a crash up at the first corner. Now then, the Michelin slick tyre allocation all weekend, right from the start in FP1 on Friday morning. We've been told by Piero Talamasso, a couple of great interviews with Simon Crafar and Aim Reynolds this weekend, that it will be the hard front tyre and the medium rear tyre that will be the race tyre pick. I'm just actually seeing the provisional tyre sheet coming in. Trying to get the old specs on to see what's going on. As we suspected then, it is a unanimous choice. Every rider is planning to start this 25-lap Grand Prix of Spain with the hard front, medium rear tyre. So there are no left field decisions, no left field choices. It's a straight shootout in terms of tyre choice, hard front and medium rear.
Fabio Quartararo did have a little bit of a look at the harder rear tyre in free practice 4 yesterday. He was able to lap pretty comfortably in the low 138, but we're expecting the early race pace here this afternoon to be in the 137s, certainly the mid 37s early on, before we get some drop from the rear tyre later on in the race. So Fabio Quartararo knows how important those early laps are in this Grand Prix. He needs to try and get out in front early rather than follow Ducatis. We've seen so many occasions with Quartararo, if he follows Ducatis or just follows anybody and he's unable to run his rhythm, the front tyre temperature just goes through the roof. He certainly doesn't feel he'll be able to make that early break if he starts on the harder rear. So Quartararo, along with the rest of the field, going with the medium.
Hard to believe this. Pecco Bagnaia is the first Ducati rider to be starting from pole position here in Jerez and the Spanish Grand Prix since Loris Capirossi all the way back in 2006. It's only Ducati's third pole here around this Circuito de Jerez. Angel Nieto. Marc Marquez, well, he was pretty realistic about his podium prospects when the media caught up with him yesterday. He says that P5 on the grid was an excellent result. He had to use a toe behind, well, he's followed Alex Espargaro, he's followed Pecco Bagnaia, he's followed Jack Mir and Fabio Quartararo at some stage this weekend to try and get in a hot lap. He doesn't expect to be figuring prominently at all in the podium battle today, as FIM President George Villegas comes to offer some pre-race support to Pecco Bagnaia. The fans are on their feet and applauding some other riders coming towards the grid. Alex Espargaro just having a little chat with his data engineer. This could all be about the electronic strategy, particularly in terms of your traction control. As we mentioned, pre-show. It's the hottest conditions we've had of the entire weekend. By the time the Grand Prix starts in about 20 minutes or so, it could be up to around 30 degrees, and traditionally this Jerez track can get very slick, very greasy and slippery. As we look at downtown Jerez de la Frontera, a population of just over 200,000 people. So many fans make the pilgrimage here to this famous city, the sherry city, of course, known for its equestrian arts and is world renowned for its sherry industry. We'll be having a tipple of that hopefully later on this evening with some post-race celebrations. Well then, Ducati, as we just mentioned, on pole position here in Jerez for just the first time since 2006. Pecco Bagnaia looked like he had great race pace. Jack Miller looking strong as well. Let's hear the pre-race thoughts. Simon Crafart is with the Ducati team manager, Davide Tardozzi.
Yes, David, as Matt was just saying, Pecco's looked really good this weekend. Also, Jack, we know how well he starts. If he can get in there, I'm sure he can go as well. I want to know, what are your concerns going into this race?
Just the first lap, the first corner, that nothing happened. But anyway, we know that it will be very tough to beat Fabio. I don't think the race will be very fast, so I think that a lot of riders will be there at least for the first half race, and we see what's going to happen.
One other thing, Tyre over the distance, okay, on the Ducati?
Yeah, we have no problem. Tyre, I guess, will be the same for all the grid. I think that almost everybody will be on hard on front and medium rear, so no concern about the tyre.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're just seeing the starting grid then. 25 riders will start this Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain, and what a sight that is to warm the hearts. After all the problems with the COVID-19 pandemic, it looks like, thankfully, fingers crossed, we are through the worst of it. And this weekend in Spain, it's had that sort of sense of normality for the first time. Thousands and thousands of bikes have lined the streets as we've been driving back into downtown Jerez. There's always a fiesta feeling, a carnival and party atmosphere about this Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain. 2022, thankfully, has been no exception. Fans, we're going to welcome you all back through the gates throughout the course of this season. We can't wait to see you all. I know that there's going to be thousands coming to see Fabio Quartararo in Le Mans, the first time he raced in France as the MotoGP World Champion. But a great sight, and Lewis, so hard to call, but that front row, Bagnaia, Quartararo and Aleix Espargaro, they have got a great chance of taking the victory here today.
You'd expect so. Pecco Bagnaia on pole position ahead of Fabio Quartararo. Aleix Espargaro will be important for him to try and keep pace with them very early on in the Grand Prix. Jack Miller, Marc Marquez and Johann Zarco going then from row 2. Plenty of key contenders then, but the man with the best record here in recent times, Fabio Quartararo, going from the middle of the front row. What can he do about Pecco Bagnaia on pole position? Let's get the pre-race thoughts of Maio Meregali with Simon.
Yes, Maio, Quartararo's looked awesome all weekend, both for one-off pace and also race pace. What do you think he can do today?
First of all, he has to try to get as much point as possible. I don't see an easy race. Pecco also has a good pace, and yesterday he did an extremely lap. I could not expect such a fast time attack, but anyway, in these days Fabio shown a really good pace in every session. Even this morning with quite used rear tire, the pace he showed was very good, and as you know, for us it will be very important to lead the race, because in that way he can really follow his line and try to pull away. Otherwise it will be difficult.
Thank you, good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Maio Meregali. We've touched upon this a few times this weekend. The start of this Grand Prix, starts of course are always absolutely essential to make the best getaway possible, but Fabio Quartararo will know that he can't get stuck behind some of those fast-starting Ducatis around him, particularly with poleman Pecco Bagnaia, wary that he has to make the dream start to try and disrupt Fabio Quartararo's rhythm. Otherwise, Quartararo could threaten a dominant runaway performance like he managed 7 days ago in Portimao. He thinks that's a big ask. He thinks that's going to be difficult to manage. But if they can disrupt Fabio Quartararo's early rhythm and maybe encounter some of those front tyre temperature problems, front tyre pressure problems, which had dogged Yamaha in the past, he may well not be a cruise for Quartararo in the Spanish sunshine this weekend. Certainly loving life at the moment on the factory Aprilia team. Certainly loving life with Aleix Espargaro, just 3 points off the top of the World Championship coming into this round 6, having had 2 podiums in the last 3 races. It's another front row start for the Spaniard in his home Grand Prix. Let's hear the pre-race thoughts of Aprilia Racing CEO Massimo Rivola with Simon.
Yeah, Massimo, we're looking forward to your thoughts. I've spoken to a lot of teams overnight, and all of them mention Aleix on the Aprilia right behind those 2 really fast boys, Quartararo and Bagnaia. I want to know, do you think he can do that?
I think the first lap will be quite important. As always now MotoGP with so tight grid, you know, with the gap so small, it's very important to start in front and to be in front after 1 lap. I think he has the pace, really. Today, I think there is the question mark of the temperature and so the degradation, but what we saw in FP4 was quite interesting for us. We use medium tires used. It was not so hot, but it was hot, so I'm quite curious to see the last 10 laps of the race. I'm confident. I don't think we can... I mean, I will target, let's say, top 6, I will be happy. Maybe, obviously, if there is a chance for a podium, we will get that chance.
Thank you, and best of luck.
Thank you.
So there you go, then Aprilia would be happy with a top 6 from Aleix Espargaro, but they want better. His teammate Maverick Viñales, who got himself into Q2 for just the 2nd time this season yesterday, didn't really capitalise on his strong performance in FP3. Viñales will start from 12th place on the 2nd of the RSGPs.
Alex Rins, as we mentioned, starts back in 14th position on the grid, just not able to get the best out of a competitive, highly competitive qualifying one we say on every Grand Prix weekend nowadays. Qualifying 1 is absolutely jam-packed with competitive riders. Rins unable to make his way through. Here's Fabio Di Gianantonio then, a former winner here, of course, took his only Moto2 Grand Prix victory here 1 year ago in the Spanish Grand Prix. He knows his way around this circuit. He'll be in the mix for the top rookie prize here this afternoon. Of course, the rookie contingent led this afternoon by Marco Bezzecchi, who starts from the middle of row 3.
So Taka Nakagami, is this the day that he finally finds a way to a podium in MotoGP? It has not happened for a Japanese rider since Katsuyuki Nagasuga was on the podium in a wet Grand Prix in Valencia back in 2012. Listen to this stat as well. There's not been a dry race podium for a Japanese rider in the Premier class since Shinya Nakano in Assen back in 2006. Now, the Joan Mir starts 9th, confident in his race pace and of a potential podium charge. And Alex Rins, will he be, as we said, the comeback king again here in Jerez after his heroics 7 days ago in Portimao? Let's get the pre-race observations of Team Suzuki X-Star boss Livio Suppo with Simon.
Livio, Alex last week made such an amazing run through the pack on the early laps, but this is a different circuit, much harder to overtake. I'm wondering about your thoughts, what Alex can achieve further forward. I mean, we know how Joan Mir, how fast he is, and his pace has been almost as good as anyone. Can you tell us what your thoughts are?
Yeah, for sure, for Alex it will be more difficult. Anyway, it's a very long race, and also this morning in the warm-up he did it with the tires with a lot of laps on, and I think he can do anyway a good race. And Joan, he has the pace to fight for the podium. Of course, the first part of the race will be important. Let's hope a good start also for him and see what happens.
One other question, having to fight in a group, my gut feeling is it could be a problem for the front tyre. What are yours?
Yeah, this is the same for everybody anyway. This is a circuit where it's difficult to have a moment to cool it down, but again, it's the same for everybody, so we will have to manage like everybody else.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Simon Crafar, thanks to Livio Suppo. Down on the grid then, what lies in store for the factory Suzuki team? Alex Rins will be wary. He's got a lot of work to do coming from 14th place. He is the joint World Championship leader going into round 6 here this weekend with Fabio Quartararo. A brief look there at Alex Marquez. It's been a tough home Grand Prix so far for the LCR Honda rider. He's struggling, like so many Honda riders are this year, to find some confidence-inspiring feeling. as we look at that stunning shot. Last weekend, of course, you need an umbrella to protect yourselves from the rain in Portimao. Thankfully, this weekend, umbrellas needed to shelter from the sun as Top Gun comes to 12th place on the grid. Maverick Vinales fans, they're out in force, enjoying the sunshine here today, and he's sporting a very nice Maverick Top Gun special helmet here this weekend.
Tom Cruise approved that crash helmet. He sent his own message of support to Maverick Vinales on Friday. As we look back at Miguel Oliveira, we've touched on the problems that he had in qualifying 1 yesterday. A real uphill task ahead of the factory KTM rider. Just look how up and down his season has been so far. Can Oliveira salvage some points for the KTM team as they look to fight their way through the field here this afternoon? Brad Binder, his teammate, just ahead of him in 15th position on the grid. As Fabio Quartararo in relaxed mood ahead of this Spanish Grand Prix. We've already touched upon his record around this circuit. 2 victories. This is the first time, of course, he's been off pole position. Can he extend his World Championship lead in the Grand Prix, which gets underway in just under 10 minutes' time?
Denials all round that he's re-signed with Yamaha for another 2-year contract. It's all pointing towards a renewal. Intense negotiations, as you'd expect, between Fabio Quartararo's management and senior Yamaha management, led by Lynn Jarvis. They don't want to lose their prized asset, do they? He showed up last weekend that he's been so valuable to them. Andrea Dovizioso then a little bit further back, down in 23rd place. Just a little message there on the screen of Andrea Dovizioso. That's for Matteo Ballerini, the president of With You, their title sponsor. Unfortunately, he's recovering from a road traffic accident, so we wish him well. As the countdown continues then to this Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain here at the Circuito de Jerez Angel Neto. What a sight that is. We'll now pause for the Spanish national anthem. What a wonderful way to have the Spanish national anthem ring out over this host venue, Jerez de la Frontera, for the Spanish Grand Prix. That's our now traditional grid ceremony, of course, where all the dignitaries come down to take part in these special pre-race celebrations. We had the orchestra there playing the Spanish national anthem. Who will they call in the tune in this Spanish Grand Prix? Will it be HRC? What can Marc Marquez do from the middle of that second row? Let's get the pre-race thoughts of HRC team boss Alberto Puig with Simon.
Alberto, last night Mark mentioned that if he pushes a little bit hard, it's so easy to crash, and that a 5th, 6th, 7th is what's achievable today in a good race. How do you feel going into this one about your 2 riders?
Well, I think this race is tricky always, because you know the last 10 laps here, if you don't manage a tire correctly at the middle of the race, you're gonna be fucked for sure. So you have to be careful, you have to be fast, but not only with throttle. You have to try to keep good lines, good rhythm, but not to push too much a tire. So if he managed to do this during the whole race, I think he has more chances than what people think.
Alberto, excellent insight. Thank you for your time.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can never count Marc Marquez out of contention, can you there? An interesting way of saying that Marc Marquez, don't rule him out. We apologise for Alberto's language there. So then, as we said, as we can confirm, Marc Marquez and all other 24 of his rivals ahead of the Spanish Grand Prix will start with the hard front tyre, the medium rear tyre. Tyre wear, tyre life will be such a key element of this Grand Prix, because it's the hottest conditions of the weekend. We do know that that can make this Jerez circuit 4.4 kilometres in length, 13 corners, very, very slick, very, very slippery. Time management, as always, will be a key component of this Grand Prix.
Jean Zarco starts from the back of the second row. certainly pulled it out of the bag in qualifying yesterday, left it late in both free practice 3 and qualifying to rescue a spot on the second row of the grid. Wasn't so certain he had the pace to go with the riders ahead of him, particularly under braking, just not able to stop the bike in the same way that Pecco Bagnaia is up ahead of him. Aleix Espargaro looking ahead. Can he get in amongst the predicted heavyweight head-to-head between Bagnaia and Quartararo on the front row of the grid? A podium finish for Aprilia today would see the end of their concessions in MotoGP, which is something they've been awaiting for an awful long time. But bigger prizes are up for grabs today here in Jerez this afternoon.
It's going to be a big ask for Joan Mir to get away well and fight his way through the pack. He goes from the back of that third row, 9th. On the road, third row with Nakagami and the impressive rookie Marco Bezzecchi. Alberto Puig then, as always, backing his man, putting his faith in his man. Why wouldn't he? He's an 8-times world champion, one of the best we've ever seen, Marc Marquez. He starts from 5th as we're 5 minutes away from the race start here in the Red Bull Grand Prix of Spain. We've already had 5 fantastic races to kick off this 2022 season. It's perfectly poised, as we mentioned, at the top of the standings. 69 points Fabio Quartararo and Alex Rins have amassed from those opening 5 Grand Prix. Pecco Bagnaia in recovery mode points-wise. He's down in 10th place in the order. 31 points for Pecco Bagnaia in those opening 5 races, as Fabio Quartararo gets himself in the zone, a face of focus and concentration as we move towards this Spanish Grand Prix. A full house here at the Gran Premio Red Bull de España, and will it be a Spanish rider that takes the spoils? It's the dream scenario when they're young kids growing up watching MotoGP on the TV. Every Spanish rider dreams of winning the Spanish Grand Prix here in Jerez. The grid is littered with top-notch Spanish talent. Will it be Pecco Bagnaia or Fabio Quartararo, though, that will stand in the way? Will they gate crash the big party here on Spanish soil? So your front row for this 25-lap battle here in Jerez. It's a third front row start of 2022 for Aprilia Racing rider Aleix Espargaro. Will he be the world championship leader going to France in just 2 weeks' time? He's just 3 points behind this man, Fabio Quartararo, the reigning world champion. Can he make it a dream week on the Monster Energy Yamaha?